Hello and welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Alliance. Of course, I'm your host, Clay, and with me for this grand finale, and I am not yet saying series because there is small hopes out there in the world apparently today. We'll talk about that briefly. But talking about the finale of Skeleton Crew Season 1. So, Adrian, I saw that you uh enjoyed this episode. Um I enjoyed the episode. I do have one qualm that we will get past very quickly. I feel like I'd like to
Yeah, I'm
hear
excited
your
to hear it.
opinion on it.
Yeah, I mean, I
Uh,
honestly I haven't talked to really anyone about it, mainly just 'cause I knew that I had to get my review in for why though. I just want to make sure that it was like as authentic to me as possible. So
yeah.
I didn't really talk to anyone about it, and I didn't have any real qualms. So if there's something I missed, I'm excited to hear about it.
Well, it's gonna be a fun one to talk about. But
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, well, what else could you talk about in this show other than like if we're not talking about the fun stuff in this, then like what are you doing here?
well, and that's the thing. I want to jump right into it. Because one thing, we usually talk news and everything else. There wasn't a whole lot out there this week as far as news. There is the rumor and yet not yet confirmed conversations of the supposed villain for the Mandalorian movie, being that of oh shoot, I even forgot his name. The one that Dave Filoni voices in the Clone Wars. It was. Do you remember his name?
I hadn't seen this news at all, so I'm not even versed.
Oh,
I
really?
didn't even
Okay.
know.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah. Let me go ahead and bring that up super quickly if it is in. Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and start with this news. I will say this: this has been somewhat confirmed, quote unquote. I don't know if there has. Oh, there is a THR article, Hollywood
Oh,
Reporter
nice.
article, on the fact that Ray Stevenson's role is being replaced. Of course, Ray Stevenson unfortunately passed away and will not be able to, of course, continue his role as Balin. But Game of Thrones actor Rory McCain will now, or McCann, will now be playing Balin Skull. Now, I will say this: I have only seen the first 5 episodes of season 1 of Game of Thrones. I am slowly making my way
Gotcha.
through that series. Are you familiar with Game of Thrones? Are you familiar with this actor at all?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with Game of Thrones. I'm one of those guys who talked your head out off about it, and then totally fell off the planet because D&D hates their fans and character development. So for me, I think the announcement is super great because he's great in that. I mean, and it's not like he's like playing the same role, right?
Mhm.
Like it's not the Hound is not what Ray Stevenson was playing in Ahsoka. So like that I think that's okay. I think I read somewhere that like they're friends or something like that, right? That they're close or
Yeah,
that they
they were
were.
close. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I mean, I think that alone I think gives warrant for him to play it, and I hope that they do it because the show needs to go on, right? And we all know that we don't want CGI stuff ever again.
Yeah.
Like, stop doing
No.
it, please. Just
Yes.
recast the actors,
100%.
man. Like Star Trek shows that you can do that. Look at other franchises, you recast the actors, it's fine. Their integrity stays the same. It's not a big deal. How many Kirks have we had? And then you still think of what Kirk you think of when I say Kirk, and given all the ones we've had, it's fine.
So many of them. Exactly.
Yeah. So like it's okay. It'll be fine. So I'm down. I'm down. Let's do it. Sign them
So
up.
in regards to the other rumor, I'm trying to. I know that the GUA has a lot of conversations. I'm trying to scroll through here to try and find the exact one that says it. Um, but it was apparently that there is a character in the Clone Wars that I can't remember his name. Uh, that Dave Filoni voices. Uh, it is oh shoot. Uh, Imbo, the bounty hunter Imbo. There is a
Oh yeah,
rumor.
that'd be dope. Oh yeah, I
There
forgot
is
that he voiced
there
him. Yeah, it's such a low key role that I forget that he voices him. Yeah, no, that'd be great.
Yeah, there
What?
is a
How?
rumor
What?
that Imbo will be the main focused villain of the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, um, and that Embo will basically be uh, going after the young Hut that is also rumored to be in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. So uh, it's going to be a
But I
very
liked him.
interesting one.
But he wasn't like a bad dude. How? Where?
I
Why?
it was very brief. It wasn't
No,
he.
wait. No, I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm thinking more about it, Clay. I don't like it. Of all the things you could do for the movie, you bring back Embo to be your villain. Of all like the new characters you already created, all like I just don't. What?
It's a
I don't
very
know.
weird pool. I will say that. I feel like it's a very out of left field pool of being somebody who, of course, we're talking Clone Wars era, jumping all the way to the Mandalorian era. And of course, we have seen other bounty hunters from that era show up.
Yeah, Cad Bane, and how did that go over with the fans? Like no one fucking liked it. Like if you couldn't do Cad Bane, what makes you think you're going to be able to do Embo
Yeah,
with
exactly.
no
No,
build up?
I totally agree. And that's why I'm very hesitant. Yeah, it says here, comicbook.com says Star Wars, who is the bounty hunter Imbo, and is he in the Mandalorian Grogu? Um, it's gonna be very interesting. I
Yeah, I'm gonna
don't
have to
know
do an
how
article about
well
it because
this,
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't like it. I really don't.
like I said, I just feel like it's such a out of left field pool um for what could be, and this is the penultimate
Yeah, the
like
big thing.
bookshelf to what's the verbiage I'm looking for here? It's like the penultimate thing to what will be the finale of the Mandalorian
Yeah, maybe I need to go back
era.
and like rewatch his episodes. But I remember like Embo, like of the bounty hunter group that they're with, right? Being the nicest one, or like the most. He has like the cute thing with his dog.
Hmm.
Reminds me a lot of Ember in the relationship
The
between
High Republic.
Ember in the High Republic, right? So that
Yeah.
I've always really associated him with not being, and he was employed. He targeted Clovis, right? I'm just like going
Hmm.
back through his history and thinking about all the stuff that he did. I'm just great. I mean, yes, he did hunt Lando. I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll see. We'll see.
it's
Maybe
gonna
and
be
maybe it's
very,
just one of
very
those things. I don't know.
interesting.
Everyone thought that like the episode 6 or 7 was going to give you the entire backstory of Jod because of something that Jude Law said in like an interview, and then
And then nothing,
when
right?
look, man, when we speculate, we're disappointed. So I'm not. I'm getting it out of my head. I'm getting it out of my head. I'm
Yeah.
getting it out of my head.
Yeah. So it'll be very interesting. And of course, when anything develops on this story, we will talk about it. But that's really all that was it in the news. Uh let's go ahead and jump into the season finale of Skeleton Crew. So my first question to you, how did you feel about last episode with landing at Atten and how Jod went about talking to the parents and getting into the vault and all of that, leading into, of course, our opening scene
Yeah,
to this finale? How'd you feel about all that?
like how we got there.
Yeah.
Um, it was fine. I mean, I'm glad they got there. I think that I'm glad. I didn't think that we'd see the vault in before the finale. But I'm glad that they did because it made it like they made everything that was going on. It wasn't about the vault anymore. It was just about like protecting the planet.
Yeah.
Which I'm down with. And I didn't think he was going to be a good guy to begin with. I know a lot of people thought that he was going to turn a leaf, but there's not enough time in the
I
story
genuinely
to
thought that he was going to. And as
no.
time went on, especially in the last episode, I was just like, there's not enough time. I don't
Yeah,
think
I
it's
think
gonna
I think
happen.
for me the big moment for me that I knew that this guy wasn't going to be the man we thought he was going to be is when everyone got high off of the fact that he said the fucking Qui-Gon lines. Everyone thought, oh, because he's taught by the Jedi and like he's doing a good thing in this moment. But I don't think he was. I think he was giving a bad lesson to a kid who just needed to be told like it's gonna be okay. Like telling him to
Yeah.
forget his attachments is literally the problem.
Mhm.
And I think that he was never for that. What episode was that? I don't even remember what episode that was. That was like what, episode
I
3, 4.
so yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I've been off the bandwagon for a while. So I loved it. I loved how bad. I was like, give me no quarter. Give me no quarter. I want him to be a bad guy. I'm over not that I'm over it, but like I think that's like makes Palpatine such an intriguing character and why I think he's my favorite
Because
villain
there's no
is
redeeming factors for
hey,
him
no
whatsoever.
redeeming factors. That dude
Mhm.
is a racist. He hates everybody. He wants power. And that's it. And we know that since he was a boy. From the moment he tapped
And
into power, he knew that that was his thing. So,
yeah,
of course, Jod, when he doesn't have the Jedi, he has a little bit of power. Of course, he's gonna. What is he gonna do? Not flex it for a kid
mhm,
like that? Come on, man. So
yeah.
I think it's in character for him to be that, and I'm glad that he's a survivor of Order 66. I know people don't like that, but it
But
is what it is, and
it
we're
very
here.
it blurs the line because he is a survivor of Order
Yeah.
66, but he's not a Jedi. Like he was never
Mhm.
trained in that way. He showed potential all the way to the point where the Jedi were actually going to train him, but it was never able to actually
Yeah.
happen. Like I kind of like that in the sense of being different in the sake of, hey, we know that people have been complaining about this, which is also stupid,
Mhm.
but here's a different spin on it. So I like the experimentation of doing something different with that kind of story.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's in line with his stuff too. I think when he's talking to the kids about them being spoiled and not appreciating, of course he's going to be a kid who grew up poor and grew up in all those things. So I think and if there's like redeeming qualities there, then yeah, man, do what you got to do. I mean, so I think Star Wars Outlaws Kay Vess's character of any character really shows that like, hey man, you can be the most well-intentioned person ever, but sometimes the rebellion's going to leave you in the vault, and you got to like figure it out. And I
Yeah.
think for most characters that they get dealt like a shitty hand, and like they still like try to do better, and they find the light in the darkness, which is what the best line of this episode comes is of that ilk, right?
Mhm.
um, then yeah, then that's what you do. And John didn't do that, and that sucks for him. But it's a good look at like, hey, just because you have the Force doesn't always mean you're going to be good, and just because you have the Force and decide not to be good doesn't mean you're always going to be wielding a red lightsaber around. You're going to be
Yeah,
just a dude.
and I think that's what I also like. We have this lightsaber, which has not been confirmed, but there's a lot of talk of it possibly
It's
like
100%, yeah.
like
If it
what
isn't, it's weird.
do you think that it's like Aslan's lightsaber? Because that's like a top rumor as well.
Oh, is that like oh like whose it is specifically? They're talking about whose it is specifically.
Yeah.
I don't think it's anybody specific. I think it's more about representation of the era. I think
Yeah.
the show itself. I think the show itself does a really good job of like telling us not to get so wrapped up in the myth,
Hmm.
right? To get not so wrapped up in who Captain Renan is because it didn't matter.
It didn't
At
matter.
least
Yeah.
yeah, for the story, right? Like there's threads to go do in other stories, but for the story, Captain Renan didn't matter. The pirate code didn't matter. Unclaimsies won. Right? So like
Yeah.
the stuff just doesn't matter. So I think it's just more, but the symbols matter. The symbols matter. So the symbol of the High Republic in John's
Hmm.
hand, a space pirate means something as much as like a pirate as a lightsaber during the High Republic being in the hand of Marchion Ro in the High Republic. And
Well,
to me, that's
and
how I feel when I see
watching
it. So I don't
this
care
first.
whose it is. It's the fact that he has it, and it's that specific lightsaber when it wasn't just about like, oh, let's turn out lightsabers before Guardian Protocol, when it was just like, hey,
Mhm.
this was somebody's lightsaber who was definitely more than likely a good person, a good Jedi, and somehow
And
got into
now
his
is
hands
being
crazy.
used for very sour and very bad
Yeah.
purposes.
Yeah. So I
Um,
hope it's not someone established then. Tell me the
yeah.
story about the lightsaber in some other way.
Uh, I can 100% I can see there being a like from a certain point of view story out there
Hmm.
somewhere in the
Hmm.
future. Like, oh, this is the lightsaber that the pirate Jod took, and blah blah blah. And,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we learning about that. But it's funny that you bring up Marchion Row because my second time watching, it's immediately I see the correlation. I
Yeah.
immediately see like, oh man, like just him waving it around
Hmm.
and demanding. Now, again, I know people are going to want to, and I wanted to as well, have this sense of like, oh, he still has like a little bit of heart because
Yeah.
like he could just be ruthless and murder people and like kill Wim's father and kill Fern's mother
Yes, no,
and
he
like all
could.
these.
No,
He
he
could
definitely
100% do
could.
that,
He
but then
holds back. He
he
holds back
definitely holds back.
compared to his homies who come in, guns
Mhm.
blazing later in the episode. So if
Yeah.
anything, he's more reserved and probably tries to do, he just wants his money. That's all he cares about is
Yeah.
money.
And this is ultimately another, life lesson of, greed and everything else. But like
Hmm.
I want to get down to because I told you at the very beginning of this is that there was a little qualm that I had. I told Katie because Katie shared in our GUA Star Wars Alliance chat this
Hmm.
tweet that said, uh, I think it was episode like after episode 3, like very early on in us watching this series, that said, what if all of the droids in At-Aten were the skeleton crew? And I
Hmm.
said, I don't know if I would like it because ultimately it goes up to story and how they actually
Hmm.
pull it off and everything else. And I think if they can pull it off, it's great. But with what we were getting all the way up to episode 3 or 4, I was like, if it just ends up being like, oh, Atten is run by droids, I don't know how I feel about that. Well, here's the finale. We get to
Yeah.
meet who the supervisor is, and it's a giant droid.
Yeah.
It's an artificial intelligence. How'd you feel about, for one, did you have this inkling that this is how it was going to end up?
Um. Yeah. I mean, I thought I thought it was always going to be a droid. I thought always going to be a droid. I know a lot of people thought it was going to be Captain Renan, but like, how could it be Captain Renan? Why would he let the ship leave if it was
Hmm.
Captain Renan? People said it was Neil's dad. I mean, Neil's dad, I guess, would have been cool, but then I was like, Dad, where have you been this whole time trying to save your son, you deadbeat? Like I just could see something being really wrong with every pick, that of it being
Hmm.
like a character that we knew, right? I didn't want it to
Yeah.
be like a gotcha. So I thought it was cool that it was a droid because this whole thing is about, let's say, I think for Jod's character too, just thinking about it now, but like Jod got to take over this planet because it was run by droids, and Jod was always like, oh, don't trust droids. Droids are bad, blah, 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 blah. And he must have been, he must have been in his side. He must have been like, oh, I'm all this droid up right now, dude. I saw my master jack these things up in the Clone Wars, like, or like he's
Yeah.
no fear. He has no fear of droids, but these regular people do. They're that scared of droids until they remember that, oh yeah, they're just droids, and we can just push them over and talk to
Yeah.
them and get them out of their things, right? So it's so cool that it's a droid because there's just so much like commentary on that. Like, are
Hmm.
we controlled by the machine? It's just so good. It's so good. And then I love one of my favorite parts of the episode that had me pause and be like, oh snap, that's so good, and I can't wait to see it like layered on top of each other. Don't take, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. But when he stabs it and it just mirrors the Qui-Gon
In
in
episode
episode
1.
1,
Hmm.
I was like, yes, guys, you got the wrong thing out of that message. This isn't Qui-Gon. This isn't Qui-Gon. Those aren't the lessons. This is just
Hmm.
a dude who knows lightsaber beat droid every single time.
Yeah.
And I think deeper than that, and something that I want to kind of explore, just kind of like back on my own time, is like I see that I'm like, yeah, of course a droid can rule the entire planet. IG-88 in like the old school canon took over the Death Star, like plugged himself into the Death Star and took over the Death Star, and he was basically a giant fucking moon blowing up planet. So
Jeez
cool, dude.
Louise, man.
Star Wars is cool when it's weird, so make it weird, and I'm here for it.
This is and I love how ultimately, we talked about it very briefly, and I even, was teasing Katie because she hadn't seen the movie. like all the way almost to the end, this was Treasure Planet, like
Yeah.
through and through. Uh, and I really dug it. I really did. I love this entire series. When it came to the supervisor, I'd even asked Katie because it was announced immediately after the penultimate episode that Stephen Fry was the voice over the intercom and voiced the supervisor. So I had said, I was like, well, do you think that Stephen Fry is the supervisor? Or is this just like a pre-recorded
Yeah,
voice and we'll
pre-recorded.
actually see who it is in the next episode? She believed that it wasn't really him, that we'll see whoever it is in the last episode. Seeing that it was this droid, I was like, okay, like everything's kind of laid out there to kind of tell you even before the big reveal. So I that was my biggest qualm is like, okay, I had
Mhm.
reservations towards this being a resolution in the beginning, but ultimately looking through the entire story, looking how fun this series is, it's a
Mhm.
very minor qualm. Like
Yeah.
I look at everything else and I'm like, this is a
Yeah,
fantastic
and it
series.
has to be. And it had to be a droid. It had to be a droid. Just how the society was run. At
Mhm.
Akron, I think showed that when it was run by humans, what happened, or like when it was run by
Yeah.
the sentients,
Yeah.
what happened. Eventually, something broke down to the point where they didn't think that English or like whatever your universal language is isn't the universal language anymore. Like
Mhm.
that's what happens. So it also reminds me. I'm not sure if you know the episode specifically, but Screecher's Reach in Star Wars Visions in season 2, there
Yes.
is the one with the dark side. Oh, it's she chooses the dark side to get out of like a shitty situation, which I think
Mhm.
is so reminiscent of like this story here. But I think when it starts, she starts in like a factory run by droids where like
Mhm.
they're the droid factory to do the thing. So I think that this is just stuff that's been these are stories that I think people have been wanting to tell in Star Wars in live action for a long time, and I'm
Yeah.
glad that we're getting it in so many different ways in a really short 8 episode season. And I said after my review that I know that we were upset about the Acolyte being 8 episodes. That's a different issue, but like this felt like a really good 8 episode season. I had fun over the
Well,
last 7 weeks.
and so our good friend Travis Snell, he is the godfather of the GUA. He basically gave birth to it. He wanted to know early yesterday because he was like, hey, I'm not going to be able to watch the episode until my wife is ready to watch it, but just tell me, does it end like a full season or does it end on a cliffhanger? And I told him both, question mark, because this really is like it feels completed. That feels like, okay, this is the end. Close your book. It was a really fun
Yeah.
story. But when you really look at the ending, they left it open. Like it
Yeah, there's
didn't.
literally no Star Wars story ever told that is complete without something else to go after. Even like the
Mhm.
Skywalker saga is now has that was the complete end of the saga. Like, no, there's always more stories because these characters just don't vanish. So
Yeah.
but like for their story, if you're talking about the story of the kids, getting them back home, defeating Jod, like defeating the villain, everyone is alive at the end. That's a
Mhm.
story, dude. That
Well,
there's no
and
cliffhanger there other than what's gonna happen
there's
with these fucking pirates,
exactly
man. Get them out of here. Get them out of here. They're a
there's
menace.
things left open. It doesn't necessarily, and they do it in the best way. Like with Jod, I actually really like that ending because it
Mhm.
shows how good of a person Wim is still.
Yeah, dude, so
Because
good.
he they're all escaping. They're wanting to get away from Jod to, of course, help KB. But even in that last moment, Wim
Mhm.
is yelling out to Jod, like, hey, and you're not entirely sure if it's like, hey, come with us, or like, hey, we're gonna stop you type thing. And then, like, of course, Fern holds him back, and then the elevator goes
Yeah.
down. I really enjoyed that moment. I thought it was a
Yeah.
really
Yeah, I
nice.
thought it was definitely him wanting for him to go. I think it's a good marker of I think all the kids are good markers of like what happens like when you raise your kids, and I
Mhm.
think when you don't raise your kids and they're raised off of like quote unquote fairy tales or nerdy fandom shit like I am, you take certain lessons and you try to take like the best of those lessons. And I think it shows that the Jedi, while as much as the Acolyte shows the issues, right? Acolyte definitely highlights the issues. This one shows that, like, hey, the core teachings are there. Like, be a good person, help people who are in trouble. That's all he wants to do. That's typically all Jedi wants to do or should want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, he was a Jedi without even being one, without even being a Padawan. He's already better than most Jedi we see, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely better than Cady Mundi. Better Jedi already, I think.
He properly got to hold a lightsaber in this
He
episode.
did. He
Really
did.
glad
He
for him.
did. He did. I'm glad none of the kids used the Force. I'm glad it was just them.
Yeah.
I'm really, really glad about that. I'm glad there was no final, Force push or Force pull thing. I'm glad Jod looked so shitty when he was using it. He's so bad.
Oh,
He's so bad.
he felt so awkward, and that was one thing that I told Katie when you finally really got to see him use it. It looked wrong, and it felt
it felt wrong. It felt wrong last episode when he pulled out the lightsaber. That's not a man elegantly chopping and like showing off a lightsaber, right? That's someone showing off a sword or a biro blade. That's not someone showing off the elegance of a weapon for a simpler time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good the way they layered this stuff in there, man. Jod's such a good character. He's up there for me, man. I
think that it's
these new
very, very
characters.
fun. With the rumor, there is another rumor. I don't know if you've heard it or not, and I
Let
don't
me
know
know.
how I feel about it. But there is now a rumor stating that Filoni's movie, which will be after Mandalorian Grogu, will feature characters from Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, I don't know if this is what they're doing. Again, not that I avoid rumors. I'm like covering my ears as you're saying them, but I don't actively go seek them out.
Yeah.
But for me, and so I don't know if this is like a thing. I say this because I don't know if this is like a thing that's already going on, but it feels like he's setting up pirates, like the Republic versus pirates.
Yeah.
And like that's what we're doing to kind of hold us off until we get like a new big bad villain to
There's
do
a lot of
whatever.
people, of course, it's no secret that Filoni really loves Heir to
Yeah.
the Empire, and there's heavy rumors that the end of the Mandalorian era will be that Heir to the Empire type of movie, and so people are saying that, like, oh, Jod's gonna be the replacement for the crazy old Jedi in that one book of Heir to the
Yeah.
Empire.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
This whole idea of like, oh, there was somebody who was using the Force and had a lightsaber in this one planet called At-Atten, and maybe Luke Skywalker goes and seeks him out and stuff like that. I mean, this is all speculation, and I don't know how I feel about it.
It got more boring when you brought fucking Luke back in.
I know, but
I don't say that as like don't. If people are watching, I love Luke. He's great. I'm just after you saw this, like I'm thinking about how we get this farther away from
I
the
feel the
Skywalkers.
same way. We always talk about how we want to get away from the Skywalker saga.
Yeah, go New Republic versus Pirates. I want a movie, New Republic versus Pirates. I want to see the New Republic be competent for once, man. How are these pirates able just to go around just blowing up planets still?
Well, in a little inside baseball for all of our listeners, but Katie and I are looking into reviewing seasons 1 and 2 of The Resistance.
Yeah,
and
shit. Dude,
I
need to go back and revisit. It's good. Have you seen it?
I've already seen it. Like we've watched it before. It was already on our schedule, and we had to reschedule some things. So I actually sat down and watched it. I loved it. It was a show that was so dogged on. And so I was like, I don't want to watch it. Like everybody says it sucks. And then I sat down and watched it. It's great.
Yeah, best Poe Dameron. One of the best Poe Dameron
representations.
Poe Dameron's dope.
It's
that alone gets you in. You'll come out hating characters that you see in live action. The main character's dad is a dick. He's the guy in Andor.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. What is his name? I don't know. I hate him. He's one of the worst characters in Star Wars. You'll hate him if
Mhm.
you watch that show.
Yeah.
So that if you need a new character to hate in Star Wars, definitely pick that guy
But like
because he
even
definitely
that that
sided with the
is
Empire.
that is pirates. Like it
Pirates,
shows how well pirates are done in Star
yeah.
Wars.
Hmm.
And watching this, I love the action. It's very simple, but like in this episode specifically, the explosion, the chase that happens, like I thought it was all great. I
Yeah, it
loved
was good. Yeah, yeah. The when my wife when we were watching it, she was like, "Man, this feels like a World War Z Independence." Well, she said World War Z. I
it.
was
Mhm.
thinking Independence Day because
Yeah.
that's it's my favorite like alien invasion movie. But like that felt that scale right because so often we put a lot of stock into like the open space shots to the open
Mhm.
landing shots in Star Wars, which Skeleton Crew has. We have beautiful open shots like that throughout this, but this one did a really good job of putting you in the shoe of
It
the
made it
authority and
very
walking the little
personable.
dog. Yeah, and like that's scary. This ship is scary. This is Star Wars. Ha ha ha. These are kids. Yes, man, but these are kids controlling giant spaceships. Like we got to remember that. And some people are on the other side, right? They're not getting out of this. There are definitely people on Ad who died that night that I'm
Mhm.
sure. And and for me and you who are watching that thing come down, everyone's watching that being like, oh yay, the pirates have been defeated. And all I'm thinking is like Starlight Beacon. Like that had to have been what it like to see Starlight Beacon fall. And
Yeah.
now I'm thinking about all of like those of how the High Republic makes the small still feel big and vice versa. So they nailed it, dude. The show's so good.
There I read a tweet right before we jumped on to this recording here, that says, from, a well-known scooper out there in the Twitterverse
Okay.
and everything else, saying, "I'm hearing it's likely Skeleton Crew gets renewed for a second season." I hope so. I think this is going to be very fun if possible. Now, from what you would have to do, because clearly, from what I have heard about season one, this was ready like almost a year and a half ago. Like it was
Yeah, they
already,
announced it Star Wars Celebration, what, like 2023 or
yeah,
2022 or something? It's been a
yeah.
while.
It's been a while. So these kids are older. I think it will very much be a time jump if at all possible. But how do you made a face? Tell me how you feeling, Adrian, about a season possibility of season two.
You can't renew this show without renewing the Acolyte. It got less views than the Acolyte did.
Yeah.
It costs probably almost amount as much money as it did. No one watched this show other than the people who watched this show, and you saw what
No,
the reviews were.
yeah,
So
I
you
mean
can't
they just
renew
put
it.
up the
Don't
numbers
renew it
for it.
unless you're going to renew the Acolyte. If you don't renew it without renewing the Acolyte, then you're doing a disservice to your fans. And I think that they can't. They
It
shouldn't.
opens a cans of
They,
worm. It opens a can of
yes,
worms.
because everything you said about no one viewing it, everything you said about the reviews, then it validates the review bombers. It just
Yeah.
don't because it was a cohesive story too. You don't have to go more. I think the Acolyte's different because it's tackling much bigger themes in the
Hmm.
thing, right? Like Rogue One doesn't need a sequel because there's a movie,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I totally get that. Oh, I think we may have lost Adrian. Uh
Oh,
oh, I heard you. Are you good? Yeah,
yeah,
hello?
I'm good. Yeah,
All right,
sorry. I
cool. Cool.
think
We're
I
good.
think Lucasfilm, Disney. I don't care, Disney. You're not
Stream
shutting me
oh
down,
god.
Disney. Don't do it without renewing the Acolyte. If you love your fans, if you truly gave a shit about your fans, you would renew the Acolyte. If you gave a shit about your fans and you didn't care about viewer numbers because they both didn't have great numbers and people still love them and are still talking about them.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think that it, like I said, I think it would open a huge can of worms to, you know, again, I think there would be a wave of renew the Acolyte tweets and all of that other stuff. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how the next week and a half shows, comes up. Oh, did I lose you again? Just wait a little bit. Man, Lucasfilm is really trying to get after Adrian. Holy crap. And I think we lost him. Hopefully he will come back. Let me see if I can get in touch with him really, really quick. See if he comes back. Man, Lucasfilm really got you. Yeah, we shall see how this all plays out. Whether we get a season 2, how they will announce it. Oh, there we go. We good?
Oh no. Oh, it's all going crazy. It's all going crazy. My internet went out earlier today. I think it might be back.
Okay.
I guess they had just outages and stuff, but I'm back now. You're not gonna silence me. Don't renew it. Don't renew in the Acolyte, you cowards. You're cowardly if you do that. You're cowardly if you do that. I don't care how cute the kids were. There was kids in the other one too, and they deserve a second season.
I agree with you. And speaking of the kids, I have seen for the past day now, since this finale aired, people are claiming and clamoring that this is the best Star Wars show that they have ever seen and best production within the Mandoverse so far. I think this is, although we make good points about the Acolyte and how that should have been renewed and everything else. I do think this show doing well is very good for the future of future productions of at least Disney Plus shows.
Yeah, I mean that's 100% for sure. I think it shows that like not all Star Wars has to be galactic battles to matter, but so does the Acolyte. I think the Acolyte does that. I think that the difference between the two is that we could talk about specifically that like there's pacing issues. The season wasn't long enough type things. Like there's stuff that we can point to that can be improved with the season 2, where I think season 1 of Skeleton Crew is great because it's great about all the things that are great about Star Wars, and they do it in one season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it focuses on like the little people, the little person, the other stuff. Because before Luke was Luke Skywalker, he was just a dude on Tatooine, right? So I think that you can do more stuff. I think you should see the Acolyte, see the Skeleton Crew, and be like, okay, cool. We have a dope sandbox. We can do stuff. We can do a murder mystery. We can do Treasure Island. Or we can do pirates. They can do heist stuff. What is Rogue One other than like a heist movie? Like there's just so much fun that can be had. And I think the directors of this, I'm thinking another thing, and I love Filoni, love Filoni. Get that clear. I'm not on like the Filoni sucks bandwagon. We wouldn't be here without Filoni, right? He's my George Lucas. It's like for me, it's like LeBron James hate. It feels forced just because like he's so good at what he does. Yeah. But like LeBron, he's better when he has better people around him. And I think when
100%,
the Mandoverse is better now that we have Bryce Dallas Howard and the Daniels and like all of these great directors who are great at doing the other stuff now here with us in the franchise, that makes us better too. So I'm even going to do like an article of like where you can go find these other directors if you haven't heard of them before, because I think they work together in such a way that they definitely got what Star Wars is, and it's about unity. It's about there are more of us. And while Filoni is great, and while we're all excited for his movie, I'm not gonna lie, man. This was more fun than The Mandalorian for me. More fun than
Yeah,
The Mandalorian for me, and I
I
can see
think
why it
that.
would be that way for a lot of people too.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that this very much uh, opens a door uh, and opens a huge conversation of, hey, do we stick by this whole idea of there being a lightsaber problem? Because yes, there was a lightsaber in this show, but it was not used in the way that majority of people would think a lightsaber is used. And so I think that we can steer, like you said, steer away from just the very generic uh 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 Star Wars galactic lightsaber battle type of things and go right into the other genres, which I will
Yeah,
say, a little tease into the future of Star Wars Alliance's calendar. We do have on our list of things to do this year a conversational piece being the top 5 movie genres we want to see in Star Wars.
nice.
So that's going
Yeah,
to be a topic of discussion very, very soon. It's going to be a very fun one. I know Katie is a very big movie buff, and so she's really big into talking about anything and everything movies. And so I wanted to put that into a more like Star Wars topic. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
no, yeah. There's so many cool ways to go with it. I'm thinking about like my own favorites, even as like
Yeah.
you're saying it. So I'm down.
So, uh,
Dude, a pod racing, Fast and the Furious style movie, dude. Oh my god, it's so fun,
exactly.
dude.
There's so much out there. I have said this to Katie. I've said this to my wife, who like watches stuff just because I watch it. She's not like a huge fan of these things, but it's just like there's so much out there. You know, we look at the book genres. We look at things like The Princess and the Scoundrel, that being a
Mhm.
romance novel with a little bit of action in it, and it's just like it works. It totally works. If it could work in this novel, I think it can 100% work on the big screen or even the small screen. So
Yeah.
I genuinely believe
Yeah.
that Star
Vision
Wars
shows
needs to
too
dig
that like
into that
it's
stuff.
yeah, and the vision shows too that you can do it in any mediums. It doesn't have to be live action, dude. We
Yeah.
give me there were like those two animation shows that like were announced or something like that. That there's like two that were greenlit or something. Um,
There's 2 in the works or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, so do whatever. I don't care. I'm here for it. I still think that Star Wars animation is still like the best form of way to tell stories in Star Wars. I will stand by that forever. Bad
Mhm.
Batch, best trilogy in the franchise,
Yes,
or none. I don't
100%.
know.
We didn't believe that in the first season. I will admit that, but
Yeah, me the
after
first
that
half.
second
Yeah.
season, I was ready for the third
It's
one.
almost like if you just give it another season and let a story that has a long length, and the
Let it
both
breathe.
those things can exist, man. We can have one season of this. We don't always need a second season. I think that's another thing that like I think that this season shows. We don't need a second season because we know what happens. We know what happens with like people in that or with the New Republic. So the thing is either one of two things are going to happen to them most likely at the end of the day. One, they're either going to like live long good lives and be fine, or they're going to be one of the planets that get like blown up through on the First Order. It's going to be something like ridiculous like that to make sure that they're not there for the sequel trilogy, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what they always do. So it's good. That was a great story. Let's do more. Let's talk more about like what you and Katie want to do. Like what other stuff can we do? Like that was cool. What other like toy can we go get out of like the toolbox and go play in the sand? And I think that's
Yeah.
how I see Star Wars right now. That it's wide open, man. It's wide open for whatever. We don't need second seasons. We just need more stories, I think.
Yeah, 100%. But I think that is it, unless you want to add more to the actual topic of the finale itself.
No, I think just think that's it's really just really good. I think if I just push anything more than anything when it comes to the shows, just don't. I think talking about it as purely just a kids show belittles what it actually does. It belittles the show, it belittles the creators. I think it belittles your kids if you think that your kids are the only ones who can like handle this. Like you can't get something out of like a kids show feels very weird to me.
Mhm.
Um, but you know, we got to remember that the line from Fern, I don't remember exactly what it is off the top of my head because I haven't gone back and rewatched the episode yet, but something to the effect that like no matter where we went, all the dark places, there were still people who were,
There were
you know,
still good people. Yeah.
the Poe Dameron, you know, there are more of us line was there. And then where do those people come from? You know, one of them was a literal sex worker. Like
Yeah.
think about like that conversation that you should be having with your child to like let them know that like a sex worker is just a person as much as they are, right? Like, and those are like big conversations that I think this show does, because they even do it in the things, they throw away lines of like, what's a concubine? Do you think those kids aren't at home asking their parents what a concubine is and are having to explain like what that is, right? So this is like this was a Star Wars for everybody, and really was so good not to have discourse. Can we just like take a moment to appreciate?
I
Whether
will
they
say,
watched it or not, the numbers say that they didn't watch it. But if that side of the fandom doesn't fuck shit up, God, we're so good because the future is so bright.
Yeah, 100%. I will say this: kids did great in that show.
Dude, they did so good.
I'm excited to see where any and all of these kids move on to. You know, whether that be other Disney productions, whether that be just Hollywood in general. I think that they all did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, and shout out the adults too, because the adults treated them like they were serious, looking at like all the behind the scenes stuff that's coming out. And even in the finale itself, we didn't really talk about that too much, about how they flipped the script on them, right? Wendell's dad now becomes the incompetent, you know, one in the clouds believing everything that he's reading type thing, right? Fern's mom is the one meekly standing back with Fern up front. I think the only ones who were like really about it were like KB's parents and Neil's mom. Where was Neil's dad? How come Neil's dad wasn't helping? You know how great it would have been to have a giant.
He showed up in one frame holding.
Well, maybe he was at home with the kids. He was at home with the kids, right? That's probably where he was. He's just being a good dad.
I think that's the most hilarious thing, is because out of all of the parents, the one photo that I saw the most as like promotional stuff was Neil's dad, and he's like nowhere in the show. Like you don't see him whatsoever.
Yeah, we got thirst trapped for no reason. But William's mom, or Neil's mom's cool. She was about it. She was like the only one. The one I think about when I see all of them is like the one with like Neil's mom like squinting at John, who pulled out the lightsaber, like the one who's actually skeptical about all this stuff.
Yeah.
She was the first one to grab the thing. She's like, I'm gonna grab it and run. And she picked up and like, dude, I love her. So the parents did great. And also I think Neil specifically, if Star Wars, please, more aliens.
Yes.
More aliens. Let them be main
characters.
Please, more alien main characters.
Especially if you're going to put it into production like this, being able to CGI everything, still have these kids mocap and all of that work. I think that works phenomenal.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the behind the scenes stuff for this. I want to see how they made Borgo. And I want to know if there was a Togruta skin in that episode, because I'm pretty sure it was, and no one can tell me.
But that is it for tonight. Adrian, please tell our listeners where they can follow you for all of your content.
Yeah, primarily now on Threads and Instagram. I know everyone's like leaving everything, but like that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
You're not rebelling and jumping onto Red Note?
Yeah, no. I mean, I'll jump on Red Note. It seems fun. I downloaded it. It seems fun. The Wild Wild West out there. I love it. So find me on anywhere where you put in Super Reese 93, and you'll probably find me there most likely. Just not Blue Sky, because that feels like a whole other thing I have to go learn, and I don't. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm currently using Blue Sky as more of like a work related thing. So comics are very interesting right now. I'll just
and Star Wars Theory posted something a couple days ago, and they like jumped them in like the quote tweets and stuff. So I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a better Star Wars community, because like the shitters aren't over here yet. So Threads, Star Wars community for Threads, pretty good. I know there's a bunch of Star Wars Twitter drama, but I don't care.
I need to jump on Threads more often for sure.
That's where I'm at. If you want to come down,
but of course, if you want to follow me, go ahead and find me at Fanboy Clay anywhere and everywhere, just like Adrian over here. Currently in the works at the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network, Ranger Alliance. We of course have started our revamp, and we are talking about the Super Sentai, starting with Boom Boomga. Very fun series. We're having a lot of fun with it. And tomorrow, at the time of you actually listening to this live on your podcast feeds, currently, right now, me and Joe are actually recording an episode and talking about the new anime, The Red Ranger Becomes an Adventurer in Another World.
Oh,
Yeah, it's an anime series that just started this month. Very fun first episode, and can't wait to hear what Joe has to say about it. So be on the lookout for that. And yeah, that is it for us. Thank you again, guys, for listening to us. Oh, and I will say this: next week we have the topic of, it is going to be a DIY Star Wars animated theatrical release. We have to give an elevator pitch with what director we want and cast. So we, of course, are very big into discussional topics this year, and
yeah.
looking into what could be in the sense
Yeah.
of Star Wars overall. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So be on the lookout for that next week.
Ooh, that
Thank
should
you
be
guys
fun.
again, and we will see y'all next time.